In this video, we're going to look at the user management part of setting up a common data environment. Learning content, uploading and downloading files, copying and moving files to different areas, viewing 2D and 3D files, file versioning, and comparing drawings and models. Now we're going to look at how we can upload files directly to our Autodesk Docs project. So firstly, I'm going to look at adding them to this work in progress area. So these could be the files that we're creating that we wish to share with the rest of the team. So if we switch to the Structures tab, you'll notice we have an upload button here. This allows us, if we select it, to upload files directly from our desktop PC. We can do one of two ways. We can simply select from your computer and upload this way, or we can simply drag and drop a file or multiple files into here, as you'll see like so. Bearing in mind here, because we have the naming convention applied, we need to go in here and select the specifics with regards to the naming. Now, as you'll see, the naming is not highlighting in red, so these are okay. I'm just going to put a few values in here and then click upload. This will then go through the process. As you'll see in the bottom right hand side of the screen, it's now uploading the files directly to our project. Once completed, you'll see a little message in the top right hand side and you'll see a little tick next to the upload here. We can close. One thing to note, when it does upload the file, you'll see here we have a description. It's not actually completed the description information. We need to use the edit button here to change the title of these files. Now what will happen if we copy these files or move them elsewhere, the title will stay the same wherever it moves to. So as you can see, we've uploaded the files through there. We can do it another way without having to select the upload. We can simply select, drag onto the window, and again it will go through the upload process. Once completed, clicking upload, it will go through, and again we can select done here and it will go through the upload and the files will appear on the screen. What it will do as well, if I just minimize that down and move across to the right hand side, you'll see with all the attributes, if we come further across, it's given us a version number each time there's a file uploaded, and as you can see, this Revit model here has been uploaded several times. We have the markups. When we mark the file up, we have the file size, the actual date and time is uploaded, and by. Now we have the ability to select files and move them or copy them to other locations. So for example, in this case, if I wish to take these two files here and I wish to copy them to my shared area, I can do so. Once I selected the files here, if I click on the three little dots, you'll notice here, and again this works on permission levels. So if you're just, for example, a user who has view access, you will not be able to move these files or copy these files. But as I'm an admin, I can do this process. So for example, if I select the move option here, it allows me to select a location to transfer them to. So for example, if I click shared and click move, you'll notice in 1 second those files have been removed. You get a notification at the top right, and if I go to the shared area, I can go in and you'll see those files have been moved. Again, I can go in here and I can go move, and I can move them back to the location of which they've came from. As simple as that. Now what you'll notice, if I just go back in, as I've done this, I'm going to select this one file and just come across the right hand side. We have the ability to look at the file's activities. So if I click on that, what you'll see here, the file was uploaded on the 7th, the description was added, it was downloaded by myself, and again it gives you the user date and time. You'll see the file's been moved from one location and then moved back. Okay, so it gives you that data which you can export if you need to understand what's happened to that file. We also have the ability, for example, we wanted to copy these two drawings again. Let's choose and we go copy. What this is going to allow us to do is take a copy of that master file here. And again, if I just put it into the shared area, if I go copy. So what it's doing, this is your record copy here in the work in progress, and this is the file that you're sharing with the rest of the design team here in this location. What you'll notice if I scroll across the right hand side, we have the version number 1, and the same will appear in here with the version number as 1. Okay, one thing to be wary of here, if this version number, for example, was 10 and you transferred it across into the shared area and it was the first time, in the shared area it become version 1. Okay, now bearing in mind this is just the work in progress area at present, so these are files that are being updated, ready to be shared with the rest of the design team on the project. Okay, we can put specific workflows in place to review them, so when we go through that process, for example, if I just come across here, we can state a review status. What this will do is it will apply a green tick to confirm you're happy with the file, or a red X, or other status requirements you set. For example, maybe approved with comments or rejected with comments, for example, for someone to do further investigation. We can easily select a file such as the PDF here and view the file directly in the cloud. No need for any desktop software or having to download the file locally. At the top left hand side of the screen here, if you have multiple versions of the file which have been uploaded, you'll be able to switch to previous versions. We also have a little window here on the left hand side that allows us to select the views or sheets that we have. Also, we have the ability for uploading, for example, CAD drawings, PDFs that have been exported from AutoCAD with layers. This will give us the ability to select a layer and turn it on or off. We also can add markups to the screen. To do so, we go across the right hand side and you'll see we have a little toolbar here. We have the ability to draw lines, add text, put revision clouds in, for example, highlighting here. We also have the ability, if we look down at the bottom of the screen, we can use pan to help pan around the view. We have fit to view, so for example, if we've zoomed into an area, and you notice once we zoom in, and I'm just using my middle wheel here, on the little mind map it just shows you whereabouts you're in the view. But if I now select fit to view, it'll expand to the extent of the view. We also have the ability to zoom to window or zoom in. For example, if I want to zoom to window and there's a certain area I want to zoom in, for example here, but again if I switch this back to zoom, you'll see in the view I can zoom in and out. We also have the ability to measure. Now if I select the measure tool, first thing I need to do is calibrate, so I know and understand that the values I'm going to take off this drawing are correct. So if I do calibrate, you'll notice on the right hand side it gives us an option. If I set the scale, I can select in the dialog box, scroll down, and you'll see under metric here I'm utilising a 1 to 100 scale, which if I just zoom into the view here, it will set the scale to 1 to 100. We can set the units to millimetres, and we can set the precision set to that one. I'll calibrate the dimensioning. So you can see if I take a dimension, it's taking the correct dimensioning from the view. So again, I'm going to take it from this grid line across here, and you can see the dimension is correct. We have the ability to change the settings. If we click on the 3 dots here, we can export this. We have the ability to share the file with others, print the file, and if you wish to find the shortcut keys, we have the ability here to compare files. And we can also search within the drawing. So for example, if you want to look for certain text, so if I type in a word, it will then look for that word within the drawing, press enter, zoom to that word. If you've got multiple ones, you'll be allowed to switch between them in the view. So you can see here, here's my 3-dimensional structural frame for this project. As you'll see, I can orbit around. So I'm just holding my left mouse button down and orbiting around in the view. If I wish to orbit around a specific area, I can select an element in the view, again using my left click to orbit around that element. We have the ability to zoom in and out, so again I'm utilising my middle wheel to do this, so I'm zooming in and out like so. We have the view cube at the top right hand side, so we can select a certain position we wish to view from, or we can press the home to go back to the original location, just like viewing the PDFs. At the top left hand side here, you'll see we have the option to view various versions that we have within the project. If I select, we've got the sheets and views. This is dependent on the Revit file that was saved here and the published views that were sent into the cloud at that time. We have the ability to select levels. So as you can see, we have levels in here. So if I select one, as you can see what it's doing in the view, it's changing the view appropriately to just show entry level. We have the ability to add issues. This can be added to both a 3D view or a 2D view. If we come over to the right hand side, we have the little tick. If I select that, we have a list of issue types we can select. So for example, if we, in this case, say an observation, if I select and if I come over here, click, it places the pin on the screen for you. On the right hand side has the details. We have an activity log. We also have the ability, again, if we go across the left hand side, is have a model browser. So because this is a file that's taken from Revit, you'll see here we have structural columns, frames, foundations and floors. So for example, if I untick the eye on the floor part, it will turn off all the floors in the view. Or we could do it individually. So for example, going down the little tree here, I could turn off a specific column or columns within the view. We have the ability to orbit down here, pan, zoom to fit, exactly like in your PDF drawings. We can zoom to fit in a window, and we can use a first person walk around. We could change it to first person. It gives you an example of the keys that you can use. Once we click got it, you'll see we have a little map on the screen. Now, if I use my left click here, I can look around. If I use my keys, I can walk forward, I can walk sideways, and I can walk backwards. As you'll see, we can change it to a different floor level. So for example, if I go to the first floor, we can simply turn off the first person, just go back to the original position. We can add in section boxes or section lines along a plane. We have the ability, just like in the 2D drawings, to measure. We also have the settings tab as well. We also have the ability to have properties. So if I open this properties window and then select an element, it will list the element properties taken from the Revit model. This also works with things like IFC files. We also, whilst we're reviewing things, we can simply select an element. For example, if I right click on the screen, you can see I can isolate just that one element in the view. Again, if I right click, I can show all elements. But also again, if I select it, I can go in here and just go, for example, hide selected element. So you can see here it's hidden the floor, so I can see the elements around that. When the files are saved to Autodesk docs, for example, we have this architecture drawing here. If I scroll across to the right hand side, you'll see we have a version number 2. If I select version 2, you'll see here on the right hand side it gives us a list of all the current versions. Now, as you can imagine, there's just 2 here at the moment. We can take a copy of any version that's in the history. We can export this or download the source file, or even make an existing previous version current. As you'll see, if I select the Revit model, there is 5 versions of the Revit model, and the same thing applies. We can copy and we can download the source file or make an earlier version the current version. So if I select this file here, now at the top right hand side, when we switch back to our previous version, you should see here it highlights that it's not current. You may notice there's some changes. If I switch back to the latest version, on the top right hand side, you'll see here we have the ability to compare. If I select this, based on the revisions or the version numbers you have saved here, you will be able to select a version you want to compare against. In this case, I'm comparing version 2 against version 1. If I select compare, it will then take the 2 files and compare them. You may notice there's some different colours on the screen. If we go to the bottom left hand side of the screen here, which I've just moved the window, I'm going to move it over to the right. What you'll see here is it's comparing the 2 different versions of the file. On the bottom here we have the blue, which is version 1, and at the top we have version 2, which is in red. You may notice some colour differences in the view. If I unselect one of these, you'll see it just highlights this specific one. We can also, for example, zoom into specific areas and see this. As you can see, it's gone from revision P01 to P02. We have our revision table. We also have some dimensions been added in here, which you can easily see in the view. We also have the ability to change this from an overlay to a side-by-side view. And what this does, it takes the 2 files, lays them on the screen, and we have this little line we can drag across. And as you'll see, as I drag it across, there's changes to the view on the screen, based around version 2 being on the left and version 1 being on the right. Now let's have a look at a Revit model and the versions of this model. So again, I'm going to select the architecture model. So you can see here we have the architecture model. If I go to the compare at the top right, it allows me to select the model I'm currently using, and we can review against previous models, i.e. in this case version 6 versus version 4. Once I select compare, you'll see on screen now it's highlighted with a window showing me the 63 added, none removed and 10 modified. Now if I just zoom in here, hopefully you can make out the slight differences. The structural model has been included as part of the view, so you can see here the structural elements are now displaying, which are the green ones. If I just turn those off, you'll see in here the ones that have been modified, which are the walls, highlighting in yellow. So this is allowing us to actually look at the model, see the differences between each version that's been updated. In this case, in the architecture model here, there's 10 modified, which are the architectural elements. If I just switch back on the added, what we also have under here, if I just hover over, you can see these are the architectural changes. If I just turn those off, we've got the structural changes. Again, if I turn those off, and then also we've got any miscellaneous. So those are things like the level lines. If I turn on the architectural ones, you'll see in here, as part of that, there was 10 modified and 58 added, which is part of the structural elements within the model.